Don't know what's happening. Are we live still? Okay. Is it working again? I'm hoping it's working. Okay. I don't know, my connection is in this place is not good, so I'm hoping there's not too... Let me just make sure I've got everything. Just close loads of stuff that I don't need. Now I'll... Is it back now? Is it fine? It might have just been a momentary lapse. How are we doing? Okay, if it's working, then I'll carry on. Apologies, my internet connection is not great. So what I was saying was, like, even as you're framing through, like this this hip zone just is still the whole time, which like whilst everything else is moving, which is kind of weird. So you want to drop those hips down and do a proper anticipation, but the pose that you strike is nice. I wonder whether, yeah, you could probably like make this curve a little bit more extreme. And again here, like it's good. Like yeah, it's good, but you could probably like accentuate it on this frame a little bit, and really get that sense of the arm kind of unfurling out. Similarly, you could do something. Maybe not. I was going to say you could do something with the something else with the screen left arm, but or in this case her left arm. But I don't know whether it's necessary. Like it feels like it gets a little bit lost through here because you're kind of making the silhouette here a little bit cluttered. You could, how'd you do it? I mean, you could bring the elbow up slightly, I guess. But it might. I can't quite decide if that would work or not. And like have this up here instead. And you might even be able to get a suggestion of the curve kind of following through here. I don't know whether that will, and then hit that pose there. Yeah, you might be able to get away with that. That might be cool. But on the whole, this pose is good. It's very bold of her to catch a flying blade without looking, but you know, if you want to be cool, you've got to be like this. I love the sword is here. Like I don't quite know, I don't quite know how that has happened, but it's the catch feels a little bit high, but also the pose is good. So I wondered whether maybe you bring the sword up a little bit, or like have it come in sort of a little bit higher. It's like this feels too low. I feel like you could still keep this pose exactly the same and have her catch it up here, and it would still work. And that blade really keeps going the whole time, huh? Is that did you animate all that? Is that all like hand keyed, or is that just like blurring artifacts and stuff? A lattice tool. Okay, cool. That's it's cool, man. Um, so I think the only other thing I'd say, like when she catches this, like that's okay. These arms kind of cross in a slightly weird way, um, like because this one's kind of coming down. I don't know if there's anything particular to do. I guess it's okay. I think I'd maybe drag the hand a little bit more this way instead. Um, Otherwise, it's okay. Um, her her bum and her back feel a little bit disconnected here. Like there's a lot of twist going down this way up to this section. Um, I don't know whether, yeah, let's see, when she catches it, like her bum does not rotate at all. Like from there, like it pretty much stays on, like facing cam the whole time, and I feel like it probably needs to rotate round. I think it feels like it probably needs to be, and forgive my drawing, like turned around a little bit more, sort of this way. Not quite like that because that's a horrible drawing, but I feel like it should be kind of facing that way a bit more. Um, and that then gives you more, like it then gives you more contrast to play with when you get over to here, because you get much more space to kind of turn. And I'd also, like this feels slightly off balance here. I would bring, or like the way the way the camera is positioned right now, this feels off balance. So I would bring this knee out as she takes the weight on it, because this feels like she's going to tip over. Which, considering she's just received like a huge force from the incoming catch, like you've got a slight disconnect between the ankle and the knee as well. So yeah, I'd definitely pull that knee out a little bit just to make it feel like she's taking the weight on that. But yeah, you do have a bit of an issue with your hips not doing quite as much work as they should be, because most of the time that's where your center of mass is, and that's where you're generating, like when you start walking, for example, like it's all hips to upper body is, it's leaning forward. The old catching a fall is a lot of movement starts from the hips, so you've got to make sure that those are absolutely solid. Um, Otherwise, it's okay. You also then want, obviously, again, like she doesn't. There's a little bit of anticipation here. Like the hips kind of come in a little bit and then start to shoot off this way for the return, but actually I think you could do more. So she's caught it. I think she could carry on going down after this point. So like have the hips come down even further, and and shoot off back in this direction. And you can make it all one flowing motion. You've already got it, but I'd just push it a bit further, get more compression on that knee in the kind of in the sort of moving hold, and then really push there. And you have quite a few frames here, and I wonder whether, see again, like because of this knee, like the push off feels weaker than it should be. If this knee was really compressed here, you know, as she's pushing off, and you continue to keep it kind of splayed a little bit here, like you're going to get so much more sense of energy pushing through. And actually, I think, yeah, following this line, she actually through here she could be lower still. So like, you know, she could be her bum could be like down here somewhere, with the knee sort of foreshortening a little bit, and then you get a real spring up here. So stretch that leg. You've also got slightly weird, I guess, because here it feels like she's going to be pushing off her heel, but then in the next frame it feels like she's pushed off her toes, and so you need to decide which one she's doing, because the foot starts turning, and then also you're pushing, and you know it's like it's difficult to, certainly in CG, to get that sense that something is pushing and also moving on a surface at the same time, without it feeling kind of slidey, or like lacking in weight or friction. So I decide, like, if she's going to push off from like the ball of her foot or from her toes, that's fine. But then you need to make sure that this pose is back. You know, this the ball of her foot, like put it on, put some ball roll there, but also realign the ball of the foot to be back here somewhere. So that she's pushing off. That also gives you an opportunity to put a lot more stretch in, because the foot will be back here somewhere and stretching off. I mean, yeah, I think that, I mean, I've made it look horrible by doing that, but yeah, definitely get the push off coming from there somewhere. Like this is nice. Like this pose is cool. Step feels a little bit soft. Well, not so much in motion, because I think the camera kind of helps. And you have trying to decide whether her foot should have already stepped here. Just stretch out more. Because that feels a little bit soft, but in motion it's kind of okay. Anyway, that's fairly minor. I mean, like, I like all the posing here. Like, this is cool. Maybe just try and make sure you get some more negative space in there, just in between here. But otherwise, that's pretty great. Like, you see here, you've got the hips driving through and rotating, and like that feels pretty good. Like, they could lag behind a little bit more here, I think. generally, like the posing through here is nice. Yeah, again, watch that knee. Fucking hell, that's some bad draftsmanship. I mean, maybe that's okay actually, because that you still get that sense of compression there. I mean, I think she can be lower throughout this section and really create the contrast between like having low down hips here and high hips up here. Like put the bum right up here somewhere. Like really accentuate that change from going down here to up here. And then get that leg stretched out to catch, and then you, yeah, that's cool. I think that's should be fine. As for the arms, this one's a bit of a toss-up between whether you keep this silhouette a little bit higher and stronger, but you risk starting to encroach on her face, which you obviously don't, you want to try and avoid doing, and whether you, and like losing the arm kind of in the silhouette of her body. I definitely see if I could get the clavicles to go up a little bit here, like it feels a little bit and I mean it's partly the way the model is anyway, but it feels like that shoulder is a little bit low, like it goes down and up, and it see if you can raise the clavicle so the arm is kind of like the end point is fine, but just so that it's kind of here instead maybe. But you might not be able to do that, so if not, then don't worry about it. Generally, this bit's okay. The arms feel very straight, but that's okay. I mean, you could possibly rotate this hand down a little bit. So at the moment, it's very flat. You might be able to. Might be able to actually overextend it here, and so like at the moment it's kind of like this, but you might be able to just do that and actually break the elbow and get just a very slight curve like up through the. I think to be honest, you might be able to do it with both. Like add a little bit of curve to those arms, and it'll be difficult to do. And then kind of set, and then have them kind of settle down into this pose here, and put a bit of drag on the wrists as you come down. I think that could be pretty cool because like this pose is nice. Like this, all this stuff is great. Like I really like all this. I mean, like I really enjoy that settle. Like as I mentioned before, like it's pretty cool. But yeah, there's just like a few little pose tweaks, but like it's nothing. I mean, I know I've been talking about it for 15 minutes already, but actually like there's not a ton I'd change. Like there's just a few little pose tweaks, make a few things stronger, make a few poses a little bit clearer. But like but it's great. Okay, so there's a lot going on here, right? So let me just watch this at full speed first. Let me turn drawings off. So again, she feels a little bit off weight here. Like it's not so noticeable in the motion because she then springs straight into, she like uses that energy to spring into the next thing. So maybe it's not a problem. But I think like it just this this like the a few of the poses, like this pose is cool. Like I like this. Like, this is great. Um, I mean, you've got a little bit of kind of connective connective legs here. So I mean, I don't know whether it will work, but you could maybe raise that knee up a little bit just to create a bit of differentiation, because having two joints kind of sit in the same visual spaces can make it quite difficult to read. Um, but otherwise, it's okay. Again, probably probably try and keep a little bit of, this is kind of tight, which is works because she's catching all the energy from the sword, but I'm a big fan of negative space. So I wonder whether that's like, I think it's okay for these poses as she's starting to unleash the energy. Like it's okay for that to her face to be kind of nestled into her arm there. But I feel like on the catch maybe can possibly keep it a little bit more open. I'm trying to decide whether there's anything I'd do with, again, it feels like her hips don't move enough almost. Like she comes up here, which is weird, and then kind of pops down as she's caught. I feel like maybe she ought to come. I think how this might work. Wonder whether she'd pop up here instead, and then as she catches it, then you get the rotation and the sink down. I can't quite decide whether whether that's right or not. But she feels really off balance here. With all the energy, still, I can't work it out. Like you, because it still feels like it works in motion. I just think, yeah, I think maybe if she if she came up here instead of immediately moving over to the left. I mean, not that, because that's hideous. But if she popped up a little bit first, and then it was the, it was, that would give you at least more contrast to this point here. and more space, a little bit more space to work with, I think. It's kind of crazy that it works. It works so well because it looks mad when you frame through it. I like this little bit of overlap you got on the hand. That's really nice. Like coming through here, like that's really cool. Wonder whether, I mean, yeah, yeah. I think possibly part of this is just uh, sure. I mean, you can DM me, or you can. Sorry, I'm just. You can send me an email. What email am I using? Sure, you can send it to this one. I wonder whether it's just actually a question of lines of action, because like this pose doesn't really do very much. And I wonder whether, because you've got a nice pose here. You kind of go into a curve here, but I wonder whether she. Yeah, I think if you were up this way somehow, so if her hips were over here a bit more, you might actually get more of this. Like you bring her over a little bit, then you'd get that. You know, you could get a slight sense anyway that there's a slight curve change from going this way into this way, and that might be all it needs, just so you get that change. Yeah, that might be it. Yeah, I think that's it. Because you don't like you because of the way she's catching it. Obviously, she knows it's coming. Um, so she's not just going to put her arm out, grab it, and then let the force of the sword kind of be everything that pulls her around. Like she is anticipating it. She knows it's coming, so she can start to like basically try and match speed with it as it comes in. So I think I think I think that will work. That's kind of cool. Um, these poses are good. I would have, I'd snap from like here with this pose. Yeah, I think so. I feel like I just think that she could, yeah, she could. Sorry to go back. She could prepare for the sword to come in a little bit more. So like more drag on the body, but also like don't have her be so far over at this point. Like it feels like she's over anticipating it. Um, she's starting to move along. She's moving over like too far over too early. Um, but like if she came like if she was sort of here a couple of frames later, you could get you could get an action where it really feels because at the moment it doesn't feel like based on this pose, like it doesn't feel based on her head position and this arm position that she's at all prepared for this to come in, but her body, like her hips, are already preparing for that stuff. So I wonder, yeah, like if you got the arm up here and have the hand like reaching out to be ready to grab, and so she's readying herself for that to come in. that could be good. I would also say that this change is quite dramatic from here to here, which, let me just see. That just feels a little bit high. It's not a problem, like it, again, it's it still kind of works. But like you want a little bit of curve here as she's, sorry. You want a little bit of curve here as it's coming in. Like, in fact, you can have a bit of curve going this way. Sorry. More lines equals better drawing, right? You can have her arm coming up here and her reaching out to grab there. And then as she's taking it in hand, well, I think she should be grabbing it here. Like, it feels like she doesn't grab it till this frame, but I feel like almost at this frame, definitely by this frame, it should already be in her hand. And you can get a slight, sea change here, which is quite nice. But this is too high. I'd bring this down here, and then, yeah, I think that's fine. I don't want to dwell on that a bit too much more because that's going to take. Otherwise, we're going to be here forever. So this is nice. Like, this is cool. Accentuate this curve if you can. Stretch that arm. This knee is okay because it's providing force, but I think this leg needs, as I was saying before, actually, this leg needs to snap from here to. I mean, I'd see how far you can push that. I'd see if you can really get that plant, get those hips lower down, and then come up, like, because this coming up here is great. Like, I'd put more curve into this spine, like more curve, head back a little bit further, and create this arc here, and make sure that the silhouette for this arm is also clear of the body. You can get some, like, this is already a great pose. It just needs a little bit of tweaking to be really good. And again here, break the elbow, curve that through there, still more curve in here, more curve, more curve, more curve, head round this way, like, yeah, see, like, yeah, like it's a great piece of motion. Like, as I say, I think watch a couple of videos of some baseball players planting their feet before they throw. I'd actually be tempted to keep this knee broken slightly and have it look slightly odd for a frame, and then really get that snap into like a really solid foot contact, and then really drive these hips through. So really get a nice like low trajectory where your spacing is like really tight all the way through the bottom, and then it just whacks really fast up into here. Like, that would be great. All of this stuff is good. This bend in the elbow is awesome. Like, going from this to here. Now again, as I mean, it's leading into this other stuff that I've drawn, but like, more curve. Just push these poses. You can get some really great. You've got the foundations here for some awesome stuff. Like this curve around here, this curve around here, that's great. And then just go crazy and just push like mad. This curve can be more. This is beautiful, like this is great. I'd even maybe bring this a little bit lower, slightly. And then really push up to the, like stretch this leg more. Like keep the foot planted on the floor, that's fine, but just push the hips up, push the whole pose up a little bit higher. Like hold this leg back a little bit more and stretch it. Yeah. And once you start doing it and you start to see it and you start to create those poses, like it's so satisfying when you really push those. Like, again, like there's a nice little change here as it comes around. Again, that can probably be a bit more. Like this can probably still be a little bit more. Right. Yeah, like you can get some great stuff through here. Like look at that. Like if you get all those curves right, that will be a phenomenal looking little section. But you just need to take everything and just keep going until it's too far, and then just dial it back a little bit. Like that could be so effective. Like yeah, it's great. But you like as I say, you've got all the foundations there. You just need to trust yourself and go a little bit more. Not too much to say about the spin, I don't think. Like it's okay. She's going pretty fast. Yeah, the pop out is pretty cool. Like it's extremely fast, so she's it's quite crazy that she can stop like that, but it kind of works. The arms feel a bit. I imagine it's quite difficult to track all of those moments. I feel like this needs to come out a little bit more. No, I think otherwise it's okay. Like this feels maybe a little bit far from her body, but I don't know. I don't know if you had any reference for this for the spin. I'd have to look at some video of somebody spinning around, but it feels like maybe her spine gets a little bit too curved at points, but it does provide some at least provide a bit of interest. There's something about the arms here that bother me, but I don't quite know what it is. I wonder whether this arm needs to come down this way instead. Try and get some drag on this. Like I can see you trying to do it here, but like this pose is not. Okay, fair enough. I think it's I think it's okay. I think you're obscuring her face a lot over these few frames. Like, wonder whether you could lead with the elbow, but instead of you can come. Like, that one's just about okay. That one feels broken. And then I'd maybe do a quick switch and actually have this arm maybe come this way instead. It'll look a bit, it might twin a bit with this one, but if you offset them enough. So yeah, I mean this one comes around later anyway. So I think that's okay. I mean at the very, maybe oh maybe not quite as extreme as that straight away, but could maybe be could be probably straighter here. And then you break it. Then you bend it the other way. So you get the the elbow does this little track that goes around this way like this. Yeah. So it comes up and then starts to switch. So the arm is perhaps almost straight or just slightly bent, and then comes down here instead. So you're not blocking her face. And then you can get to this place instead. Let's see the thumb here as well. Oh, actually, well, her hand turns the other way, so maybe not. No, we should. Yeah, no, I'm talking nonsense. Let's see the thumb here. You've got the fingers. I mean, it's horrible drawing, but let's see the thumb. And even if the hand rotates, then that's fine. Which way is she catching this? Holy shit. So she's catching... She's going that way. The sword is coming in which way? Again, I kind of think you probably want to... Again, it's because this sword is too low. I basically have it pretty much like in her hand at this point. Because catching it here is fine. Catching it here feels too late. But again, it's minor. It's like it's not. It's difficult to tell with the camera, but this arm from screen, right? Yeah. Yeah. Just as it comes back in. This arm feels a bit IK here, and I don't know if it is, but just because of the way the camera moves and the way her body moves, like feels like it gets a little bit stuck in time or stuck in place. Whoop, that's the mirror button. Didn't know that was a button. Right. Okay. So I think otherwise you're okay. Here, this is a slightly weird. Again, it might be the model, but try and get a nice curve through her arms here, because this isn't, you know, in general, this is a nice pose. Like that's fine, but just try and get some curve through here, through her arms, and try and get rid of that slightly disjointed elbow, shoulder feel, like it feels a little bit awkward. try and smooth that out. Yeah, I talked about that hand. She's catching this way. I think that's okay. Alright, I'm gonna move on because actually I've spent nearly 40 minutes talking about this one shot. I mean, ironically, I've spent 40 minutes talking about the bit I like the most, which is probably not great. Apologies. Again, this is a similar pose to this one. This one? No, this one. Similar pose to this one. Get that knee out. Like, starting to feel a little off balance here, like pulling that knee out a little bit. I mean, I don't know whether it's worth going all the way over here, like that might be a bit too much, but it definitely is pulling out a little bit. Something like that. Just try here, and if that doesn't work, then just try going all the way, go all the way out. Because she feels, again, too off balance to that side. I don't know whether I'm going to spend too much time talking about this stuff. I mean, like, some of the posing is great. If she's going up here, her spine goes this way and her legs are going this way. If she's going to go up, I mean, I think there are bigger issues in general with this bit of the sequence, but she's coming through here, like, it's okay to have her spine go this way through the charge, but as she gets to here, like, you need to break this back the other way. Bad line. Yeah, you wanna go the other way instead. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about this bit because I'm not sure that it works. Like, all of the physics kind of goes a little bit out the window. To be honest, like, if she was going, I don't know, unless you want me to talk about that, but it means we might have to speed over some of the other stuff later. But the fact that she's pushing up here, which is great, that's fine. Like, she can zoom forward and push up, but then she also goes backwards. Like, I mean, I'm not suggesting that you should put more camera in, but I kind of feel like she should be just going straight upwards and end up like here, and then you just you reframe the camera so it's over here somewhere instead. But at the moment she, like, kind of zooms up and backwards, which is a bit weird. I mean, I can talk about a few of the poses as we go through, like, yeah, like, it just feels that there's a total disconnect between what's, like, she's pushing up here, but then magically she's going backwards, but also just going straight upwards. Yeah, it's, yeah, but, like, again, there's some nice stuff here, like, this is a nice curve, like, and this is great, like, you've not got the, you've not got the ankle passing through the knee, that's fine, like, again, get this arm out of the silhouette. Which way is she going? Like, for this bit, yeah, drop that. You can probably drop that shoulder, like, drop her shoulder a little bit and get this arm coming up this way and this other arm coming this way. Yeah, I will move on. That's fine. I just want to check whether again silhouette, silhouette, silhouette. Just make sure it's always clear what. Generally, this is good, but lines of action. Yeah, like this stuff is all okay. Yeah, there's a few things that we've talked about earlier that carry on through the same. It's the same principle, but it's just again like it's just a few odd, like this is great, this is fine, no problem. Like a few odd like choices, like why she spent the whole time kind of being towards or being close to camera, and then the end of the spin ends up her facing away, which kind of seems an odd choice. Yeah. Anyway, but that's something to think about anyway. Like this bit is all generally pretty good. A lot of camera here. I think the only note I had for this bit was the cut into it, which was came on way too late, and this sword grip feels really weak. Like I feel like you've done it to accommodate having the sword not go through the floor, but I feel like you should put it in her hand properly, and then adjust her wrist to, like, if it was in her hand properly, like, I mean, maybe the sword has to kind of come round. Maybe the sword has to come round kind of this way, and her hand is kind of here, and you get the kind of sword foreshortening in towards the camera, or you bend the wrist the other way and have the sword come off at this direction. That might give you a slightly weird angle on the wrist, so be careful about that. Because somebody tweeted about it the other day, like the amount of rotation that you can do this way and this way. Like I think it was like 20 degrees up and 50 degrees down or something. Like something to bear in mind anyway. Otherwise, I can see what you're trying to do with the hair there. I don't know if it entirely works, because it doesn't feel like it kind of goes over enough. Like it feels, yeah, it feels like as she flicks her head this way, it needs to quite quickly swish over this way first, and then come back round. I mean, I have not really animated any hair for a very, very long time. It might be too much. It's a minor detail. It's not too big. Right. Let's move on, because I've spent ages talking about that. But it's like, as I said, it's a great shot. Like there's just a few. I mean, especially for the first bit, there's just a few poses and things that can just be tuned up, and you're good to go. Okay. Stop waffling, Daniel. Let's go. Because otherwise we'll be here forever. Okay, so this one. So I'm going to try and actually stick to my notes a little bit more. Okay. So here, as with the previous shot, like generally everything. Let's just watch it. Everything kind of works okay. There's just kind of a few posing issues, and a few just a couple of choices that feel a little bit weird. The first thing I want to say is this guy, the guy that gets his neck broken, generally is okay. One thing is this a piece from Anim School, or am I incorrect in that assumption? I feel like I recognise the rigs from there, but maybe I'm. Is it Anim School or is it? Is there a? Did you take a class like that? This other characters from the games course on Anim School, is that right? Or is it iAnimate? Yeah, I'm not sure. If you could just clarify, that would be. Which one is it? iAnimate? Yeah. Um, I've noticed it a lot with the games. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I noticed it a lot with the games reels that I've seen out of there. Um, when people die, because obviously they do a lot of death animations. When people die in uh, on iAnimate reels, and it becomes a thing that you start to notice a lot. Watch for the watch for the bodies when the bodies hit the floor. They bounce so much. Like it's like they go, and I assume it's I assume it's the tutors. Um, but like there's so much bounce on dead bodies when they like it's kind of crazy. And like once apologies, but once you've seen it, you will forever see it. Like there's so much like too much. Like he's not dropped very far here. Like but he bounces one, two, three. Like the the bouncing dead bodies on iAnimate specifically is insane. Like you see it all the time, and yeah, once you've seen it, you will never unsee it. Um, but I see it all the time, and like especially often with this character, just like bloom 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 bloom, like he's died, but immediately turned to jelly, or died on some jelly. I don't know, but yeah, it is like there's a lot of bounce, and like obviously I'm mentioning it because I'm looking at your reel, but seriously, so many iAnimate reels have that in it. It's really funny. Um, and I personally I kind of think it's a little bit too much. Yeah. um, anyway, anyway, so let's look at this. Okay, so it's okay. I think again, as Chris mentioned that with your other piece, there's a few like acting choices that are kind of a little bit weird. There's one major acting choice that is a bit odd, but otherwise it's just posing. Like there's a few like this pose feels a little bit odd. Like it doesn't. Everything is very straight here. Um, like it's not very dynamic. You don't need to apologize for all animate reels. Uh, it's really it's okay. I'm only teasing. Try and get a little bit more. Uh, try and get a little bit more dynamism in these poses. Um, she's supposed to be being stealthy and stuff. Like her stance feels very wide. Um, like her neck feels too far over this way. Um, if you're kind of like low and down and crouching up behind somebody, like your neck is quite forward. Um, like over over here somewhere. And even if she's looking up, like that's still fine. But you've got very, that's probably the main thing through most of this shot is she stays very, like, almost, apart from the kick, almost every frame of this. I mean, here there's a little bit, but I mean, they're still in line with her hips. Here, like, he's starting to get away from it a bit. Well, no, even still, actually not. I take it back. Like, even on the last frame, like, everything is very straight all the way through this. Um, and it, ooh, no, don't delete that beautiful picture. Right, so, uh, you need more anticipation here, as we talked about. I don't know whether it's worth even having that foot slide. I mean, you could just start with the foot already here. Like, it's a slightly unnecessary detail. Um, you know, you can save yourself a bit of time and energy. Like, you've also got her one again. It's slightly yes. I mean, generally it's like an easy place to create interest and dynamism in the pose. Yeah, do you always try to counter the chest with the hips? And how much does it depend on the style you're going for? I think you should. I mean, even a basic walk, you're going from this to this. Like, it's a thing that makes things look alive. So anywhere that you can create contrast, I mean, especially as we saw in this shot, like anywhere where you can really counter what the spine, like creating different shapes. So like going from this curve and then reversing it. Sorry, I've clicked in the wrong place. Like having a curve here and then and then having it reverse into this curve. Like anywhere that you can get that contrast, like it creates interest. Like it's definitely a thing that sorry, it's definitely a thing that you should look to do. Um, Now, one of the acting things about this shot was she's a bit too far away. She extends her leg here, and she's only just touching his knee. Now, obviously, it goes through a little bit, but that's not a big deal. That's fine. It's only one frame, but she's too far away. Um, I mean, we do it in real life, so you know, it's even if you're going for a more realistic style, um, it will look it will look a bit flat and overly robotic if you don't create some of those shapes. So I mean, even when you're trying to do grounded stuff, like you can still push that a fair bit. Um, yeah, don't don't be shy is a big thing. Uh, but yeah, I think just from a staging point of view, she's too far away. She's you lose a lot of the impact because she's already at full extension just as she's starting to touch him. Um, if she was much closer and you move the camera around a little bit so you get a better view. Um, like this bit's generally okay. She feels quite off balance, but yeah, I mean that's the other thing because she's at full extension here and she feels really off balance. She's got nowhere to go other than other than step down. And like here, she feels like she's leaning really far backwards. Again, like because of the staging and the camera, like this silhouette is not great. Like it is hard to read that. I'd pull her much closer. Again, pull this knee out a tiny bit. Like you've got a disconnect between the knee and the, like, her foot is facing camera here, but her knee is facing off down this way. I'd probably drag the foot a little bit more as well. Like it'll, like here, like still at this frame, like her foot can still be dragging behind. These slopey shoulders. It's not a good look. Again, get these arms up and out of the way of her face. We're losing that arm back here somewhere. Yeah. Trying to think about how you do that kick. Let's think. So she's like down here, and she's kind of looking up. And then does she change her foot at all? Yeah, see, one of the issues is this foot. Like you've put a foot move in on this foot. But actually, that's not the one that's the important one. I mean, start with that foot closer, and don't bother moving it. This is the foot that should be doing more, because she's down here and she goes up, and that foot doesn't move at all, and yet she then also is lifting her leg up, like, or it's like a very subtle rotation. What should happen is, as her, let me see if I can demonstrate it with a Wacom tablet, and like as my flat plane. What should happen is, if her foot is like this, as she comes up onto the toe, like, so she's, she's down low. As she comes up, that foot should raise and twist and plant. And so as that foot plants, as she's twisting through like that, so you get bang, and as that foot comes through, that's when the kick comes out. Yeah, as I say, it's not ideal for the way the way my room is set up, but yeah, like as she lifts, and then she's turning on the ball of her foot, spin that foot round, and as she plants, that's when the kick comes into the back of the leg. That is what has been bothering me about that pose that I could not work out. So I'm glad that I worked that out. All right. So yeah, like this foot should be, more this way at this point. I mean, again, forgive the drawings. And then as she comes up, you go up onto the toe. Because like you're losing a lot of weight here. Because like, in fact, here feels like both feet are off the floor. Like both of them are going up at the same time, which is weird. If anything, this should feel more planted, and this heel should drop a little bit as she's pushing up, because the weight is that on that foot. But as she's coming up, this heel needs to go up and then spin round this way, so that when she goes in for, and then as it like contacts here, I think you've got too many frames between the kick and the foot plant, but as it comes here, like it should be much more rotated round, much further round. So yeah, you really want to get. Am I making sense? Like you want it to come as she lifts up, bang, other foot goes in behind the knee, and you get that sense of weight transfer as you come through. Because at the moment it feels like the leg feels really static, like you've got a ton of knee pop. Like this knee is jittering all over the place. Like her hips go directly up, whereas they should be coming over this way, over onto her other leg. Yeah, okay, cool. Because she still feels quite off balance here, like too much weight to this side. Yeah, and rotate around that. Rotate around the ball of this foot, like that becomes the pivot. I mean, I'd be tempted to get this leg higher. Might bring that knee higher. Not put quite so much rotation on there, but again, you might need to adjust the camera around a little bit. But like basically, the contact should not happen at full extension. I'd bring her forward in the scene so that the contact happens. I definitely don't think I can draw this. But like she should still be, because like she's not going to be able to generate any energy on the back of his knee when she's already at full extension here. Like when she's on the back of his knee, she still needs to have like quite a lot of energy left in her leg, in order for, if he stood like this, like she needs somewhere to go with that foot. Otherwise, once she's already here, and that's the back of his leg, like that's basically a little tap. That there's no energy there. There's no transfer of energy at all. But if you go from here, when you do the extension, I probably shouldn't get rid of all. Undo. Okay. Oh my god. Come on, work with me here. No. Right. Oh fucking hell. Right. Let's just start again. So if you go from here, like when she then kicks through with that energy, like then then his knee has to go somewhere. So yeah, there's a few a few choices there that you can make to kind of improve that. But there's definitely some issues with the weight as well, because that feels like she's just kind of off balance, and then that makes this bit feel kind of weightless. Whereas she could kick, and then like, because at the moment she has to, the only thing she can do is keep falling, basically, and plant her foot. Whereas she could kick, retract her foot back up, and then plant it down on the floor, and that would probably feel a little bit better. But again, like these, and it's partly a shame just because of the camera position, but like there's a lot of silhouette issues here that you need to clean up, and you'd see it a lot better from from a different angle. Like if she's the main focus, then try and frame her in a way that where you can see what she's doing. Um, I mean, speaking of this guy, like he's okay. Um, like him hitting here is fine, and like I like this kind of curve that you've got, this backwards curve that you've got going on here. You could drag these hands a lot more. The weird thing about this one is the oh yeah, sorry, refer back to my notes because I should actually be doing that. The other thing is when I talked about her hips here, like they pop up and hit a wall, and they need to like sink down to spring up, and like lots of hang time at the top, and then bang, you get the kick, and you follow through. Sorry. So like generally this guy's okay. The weird thing is this look here. Now, is the idea that he's looking behind him to see what happened? Because if so, I feel like he should have been doing it back here somewhere. Because like it's a really fast, kind of slightly jerky motion, and I mean he's doing a lot of work for her, which is convenient for her. Um, like basically like, oh, let me just get my head into a perfect snapping prep position, and then and then he's dead. Um, if the idea is that he's looking like by human response time is such that probably at least by here he knows he's been he knows he's been kicked. So like if you're gonna have him look, which I'm not entirely sure that you should, yeah, then don't have him start to turn. Don't have him start to turn this way. Just have him once he gets down to here. Don't come up to screen left. Just go from here and turn that way, and you just give yourself a lot more time to get into that position. Because this is way too jerky and fast. Um, it also makes it really sinister that they kind of look at each other right before she snaps his neck. It's like that bit in Modern Warfare 2 where you stare into the eyes of a man as you slit his throat and watch the light go out. It's a little bit it's a little bit sinister. Um, I feel like I feel like his arms could probably do something here. I'm not entirely sure what, but they don't. They kind of this arm is kind of floating, kind of just a bit dead. Like it should at the very least be, you know, reaching around to see what happens, or like, you know, turn around or something. It kind of just doesn't do very much. I mean, here's okay. Again, I'd probably try and create a little bit of negative space here. I mean, her grab, like do I want to say about the grab? Like it feels pretty good. I think it's just the keyframes to get into it feel a little bit kind of messy. Like there's a lot of kind of popping and stuff as you're sort of trying to get into like this this pose feels a little bit weird. I mean her head feels kind of slightly off. Like again, it's not like huge deal, but like and again like silhouette becomes silhouette becomes quite unclear here because partly because of the camera, partly because his head's so massive. Um, yeah, I see I see what you mean, but I you tend you know she hasn't bashed him in the she hasn't bashed him in the head. I think it just means that you yeah I'm sure. I think it just means that you give yourself a bit more time here so that you don't get this kind of snapping. Like here, you know, his arms like he kind of already gives up. Like he actually goes more limp as she grabs his head. Like she grabs his head and pulls him in, and actually his arms, rather than going from here to like, you know, starting to reach towards getting, you know, getting her arms off. Actually, like she gets him to here, and then she's like, okay, I'm gonna die. Let me just give in. Um, you know, you could have you could have him at least start to maybe reach for, you know, reach to get her arms off him before she I mean to be honest you yeah. And yes, the working with constraints is tricky, but like the other thing is that she and I mean it reads okay at high speed, but it feels a there's a there's a bit of it that feels a little bit weak, and it's because the hands come off here. Like she's not even turned his head and she's letting go, and like I mean, to be honest, it's quite. I'm fairly certain it's pretty difficult to actually snap somebody's neck like this anyway. But I think, but like she takes her hands off. She takes her hands off way too soon. I mean, at the very least here, his head should be further round. Like the if you track his like if you track his nose. See if we can turn on old frames. Like it's quite soft. Like I mean, his nose is or like perhaps his chin would have been better. Like his nose is probably here somewhere, here somewhere, like there's a lot of frames here, and if you want to get that energy in, you need to go from like here, like this frame, to like this frame with his head, like really, really fast. Like it needs to, you need to actually take out quite a lot of those, maybe take out quite a lot of those frames so that you get the impact from going from one side to the other side really fast. Um, only for subscribe. Gomez, no, I do not have. I'm not an affiliate yet, so I do not have any sort of subscriber system right now. That may be something that I look at in the future. But right now, if you just want me to take a look at some work, you can get in early before the microtransactions and get me to look at some stuff. So yeah, I mean overall, like I think this piece is okay. I think you need to yeah. There's a few, again, like just a few interesting choices. Like it's not nearly like the idea is that it's a more grounded piece than this one, but it doesn't feel as dynamic. Like I don't like it as much as the first one. Um, you have a kind of a few like weird little hand pops and stuff. I assume you're still working in with IK hands here. I would probably after you let go, so not here, but like here somewhere. Well, no, actually, I mean you can let go here, but that's fine. But I'd switch back to FK personally, but that's maybe just me. But I think, yeah, generally it's just like everything feels very static. Like she doesn't generate any rotation in her hips. Um, like it feels like it will start from here and then work up the spine and then up in through the arms. Um, so like her, but it feels like her hips are very still. Like all the way through, all the way through this. She doesn't, yeah, like this foot doesn't adjust at all. She does a little step here. Kind of gives the suggestion, but not quite. Yeah. Him falling back is quite nice. This leg is way too far out. I feel like you've done it to make it easier to get back into this position because it means you don't have to animate this foot, but it feels weird. Again, like even when she's down this low, like her hips and her no, I don't think that's anything to worry about. No, you don't need to worry about your work lacking consistency. That's some things are harder than others. Some people take. I mean, I was worrying about a, a run cycle the other day, um, and like I should be able to do that, but whatever. You just kind of have to go with it and see. And like any time you're animating, you're improving. So like it's not a thing to worry about. Um, it's just you just keep going, keep practicing, and eventually you'll get it. Um, but got a bit of intersection here. Um, yeah, I mean that leg's a little bit of a cheat. So you want to try and like her foot can stay here. That's fine. You can have her knee come out. That's not a problem. And then as she leans backwards, like she can have both feet planted here, and then as she I mean that's probably a bit extreme, but as she leans backwards, then she takes the step to land here. That's fine. Um, like it's a nice little touch to have her hand on there. That's like a nice little acting choice, but her shoulders feel very kind of slopey. Like again, like her neck and head feel slightly detached somewhat from what the rest of her body is doing. I can feel as she looks here, like she should probably have more rotation in those shoulders, so that she can like look over her shoulder and stuff. this feels too high. Like you've got a very strong angle between here and here. Like it's very extreme. So yeah, and we talked about the wibbly wobbly bounce. I mean, it's fine, but it's just a thing to be aware of. But yeah, so I mean, generally it's okay. It just needs a bit more. Like even if it is going to be a grounded piece, like it needs a bit more. It needs a bit more dynamism. Like it needs a bit more. You need to. You still need to push those poses, because otherwise, like it just feels a little bit like kind of weighty and slidey. I mean, that foot in particular is particularly egregious. That's a very naughty foot slide you've got in there. So yeah, try and take the posing and stuff even from like dynamic things and apply those to all of your work. Like it will be worth it. Like yeah, in this piece you've got some fantastic curves and really nice shapes. There's no reason to not put that stuff in here. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like you could strike some really dynamic pose here. Like at the moment it's kind of just a little bit twinned, but you could. Like this, just as a quick example, like this elbow comes right across, like it just basically goes in a straight line from here over to here. Like, why not do what you're doing in the other shot? And as she comes round, have this elbow drop. And drop. And create a curve. Like, if you don't have it, build it. Have it come round and then have the hand come up and round as you go round. You could end up in what kind of thing could you do? Like if she goes from here, you could go. You get the snap and you could have one. You could like have one arm come up really high, like she's so yeah, it's with her right arm. So she bang, you could hit a like a you could hit a really awesome pose here where like which arm did I say was high? The right arm. Left. So this immediately is incorrect. So well done, mate. Um, you have this. You have do go mad. Like go mental with it. It's like bang. Like yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't actually rotate this arm this way. Like hit there somewhere, and then yeah, and like make her feel she's like she could be like a dancer or something. Yeah, like this. Yeah. So you have this elbow trail up, and actually this drawing is not good, but you go this way and actually have the arm bend this way, this way, this way, and like maybe not that, but yeah, and like get up to here and then go up. Like there's definitely some like cool stuff you can do there. So yeah. Okay, I'm going to move on because I have been talking too much. And this is going on way longer than I anticipated. But yeah, there's a few things there, but I think adjusting the camera and strengthening up some of those poses, so that's kind of a cool motion, but like it feels like it could be a lot more dynamic. And yeah, the staging and bringing her closer so that she can get more impact on that kick. In fact, I assume. Oh, no, actually, that's very presumptuous of me to assume that you've seen my video, but if we, I'm sorry to pimp my own shit, but if you, this actually, because it has a similar kick, this actually does explain a bunch of things that I was talking about. So watch this. Help if this would go away. Watch this foot. So it plants, and then it rotates on the ball, which is what I was talking about before. Yeah. So it plants, rotates on the ball as his hips come up. So he's driving up, and his foot comes round to get into a new position, and you get much more sense of compression and contrast where, you know, his when he goes in for the kick, like his leg is at full, like is compressed as it can be, and then you generate that much more sense of energy because you've got somewhere to extend to. Now, if I'd have, let me get Epic Pen up here. Like if you know, imagine this is your guy, like, you know, it's like basically literally everything you need is all here. Like if I'd have framed this so that this guy was back here instead, you know, and he's got his leg compressed up here, and then when he kicks, like when he kicks, he straightens out his leg, but actually he barely touches the block. It wouldn't work. Like there's, you know, it would feel really light, and like he'd basically like fully extend his leg, he'd just touch it, and then if I made it fly off like it does now, nobody would believe it. Like it would be the amount of energy that was being transferred from one to the other would not match up at all. So if you want to make that kick feel vicious, like you need to get her closer so that when she hits, she's got somewhere to drive through. Yeah, sorry, that's a little egocentric aside. Right. So I quite like the dog shot. I don't have a lot of experience doing quadruped animations, so I'm not going to dwell too long on it. Generally, I think it looks pretty good. You have got, let me see, you've got a little bit of foot sliding just in places, especially once he starts running. Like, feels like he is not frictioning, like he isn't creating friction on the ground here. Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm glad. Yeah, just take a look. You can, if on Vimeo, if you hold Shift and use the arrow keys, you can frame through stuff so you can see what's happening. You're losing a. It feels like you're losing friction a bit here, and now it's not uncommon for dogs' feet to slide a bit when they're running. But in a few places, it feels like going from here to here. Like he's generating a lot of forward motion, but he's seems like he's generating a bit too much forward motion given how frictionless it feels. Like just track those feet a little bit and maybe lock them down just a tiny bit more so that, because it's moving back in space quite a lot. But you know, if it was as slippery as that, he wouldn't be able to get that speed going forward. The only other thing I would say, I squash and stretch on the ball. The only other thing I would say is, and as I say, I haven't done a lot of quadruped animation. The pacing feels very even. I feel like he should he should stop here for a longer beat to acknowledge what's happening. Like I'd have him wait in some like one of these poses around here for just an extra beat so that he can notice what's happening and then get going. And the problem is he gets again, and it's partly because of the foot sliding. Like his overall his sorry, let me just put a little dot here so we lose that. Overall his spacing, and I don't mean I'm talking less about individual body parts, but like just the way the way the timing works in the scene, like it's super even all the way through. So like if I draw a little, bomb's probably not the best place to use, but yeah, like it's really even all the way through. Like he gets up to speed almost immediately, and like it feels like the speed needs to be so he's walking in, he stops, he recognizes that there's a ball, and then he needs to even if he's pushing off and getting like a bit of a oops even if he's pushing off and getting a bit of a speed boost, like it still feels like he needs to then get up to it still feels like he needs to get up to speed after that. I don't know whether this graph actually makes any sense. And then once and then he accelerates, and then once he gets to his maximum speed, it needs to tail off, if you will. But like the pacing during the sequence feels a little like it just feels like he's walking, he sees the ball, he speeds up a little bit, and then it just stays even, and like it's not very dynamic. It's a little bit it's a little bit you could generate a bit more interest by like having him walk in and come to a stop, and oh, he sees the ball. Okay, right, he sees the ball, and then you know he does his like run start basically, and then he accelerates up to his maximum speed. It feels like he's going the same speed the whole way through that. So it's a minor thing, but otherwise it feels okay. He feels there are a few instances where I think the spine bend is a little bit too much. And as I say, I'd have to actually look at some reference, but he's throughout the whole thing, he has a lot of spine curve backwards and not so much. Like even here, like it's still slightly backwards. I would need to look at some reference, but it feels like it should. Does it not alternate a bit more between C shapes? I see. Okay, so you stitch the two together. Yeah, I think what I would do is if you've got the walk here, I would like it's perfectly rescuable. I'd have him as he walks in. I'd have him like I'd animate a walk stop and just have him stop and idle for even if it's just like half a second or a second. Have the ball come in, have him see it, and then do the run start. and have that accelerate up. I think that will be enough to that'll be enough because like the run looks okay. Like as I say, I am no quadruped expert, so I don't want to overstep my mark. Um, but it was just the pacing that stood out to me a little bit. So we are going to tackle this one. I very quickly want to talk about this one first. So this one is fine. Like, there's not much to say about this. Why is my video stopped updating? Come on. So I think if you're gonna do the, it's okay to do the comparison between the two, but if you're gonna do that, I'd say on this, like if you're gonna have a bit here where you show that it's raw mocap and final clip, I would say on this screen beforehand that you say that it's mocap. Generally the motion is fine. Like I think it's okay. It's a perfectly fine mocap run. I think it's just the way you're presenting it. So here, like you don't show. I'll just play it through. You don't show the you don't show this one long enough to really take in what the differences are, what the changes are, and also. And I mean, I know I appreciate you've made it into a loop here where she's running on the spot, but the fact that she keeps coming forward and then popping back is like it. You need to ideally you need to show it in a similar format to this one, where even if you're just cheating by putting the camera, having the camera linearly follow her or something. Then do that, but you don't show it enough times, and the manner in which you're showing it makes it difficult to really appreciate how much work you've done. Like she's running at a different angle, like it's just kind of a couple of presentation things, but otherwise I don't have any major notes on that. Like just mention here that it's mocap as well, and that's fine. Otherwise, it's cool. And then as for showing it in Unreal, I think that's fine. It's good to, especially if you're new and you're looking for a job in games, it's good to show that you are technically capable and that you have experimented with engines and have done some stuff like that. I would say because it's just a run forward. I mean, you get a bit because you haven't got the animations foot tagged. You get a few weird bits in here. So what I'd say is, if you're just looking to show, either get it foot tagged so that as you accelerate, it knows what to do with the feet, or alternatively, just show her walking around, or like whatever this, show her like walking around, and then separately show her running. I'd also avoid, because you don't have any. Yeah, I mean it looks like it, because you don't have any. It does look like it's root motion. You don't have any turning anims, so I would avoid her turning, because it looks really like, if you're going to shoot a video of it, if all you've got is the run forward animation, do not put the turning in, because it just makes it look weird. Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine if I mean, everybody's learning. Like if you're still learning, that's great, and it's great that you're looking at it. I would just say avoid showing too much stuff that makes it look less polished than you need to. So, yeah, don't turn her if you don't have turn animations, and if you don't have her. Like you've got a run stop anim, but there's no root motion on that, so like it feels a little bit weird. Like it's like if it looks better in the if it looks better to just show it in viewport and do a play blast. Do that, and then if you can show an equivalent version in Unreal, even better. But like, you know, it looks like you've got an okay run stop animation there. So why not append it to a run that you have control over in Maya? That's, as I say, it's good to be able to demonstrate that you're doing work in Engine. That's cool. But there's just a few little ways that you can. It's not that you're deceiving anyone. It's just you're not showing the bits that don't work as well or aren't as successful. Okay, and I'm going to try and talk about this one as quickly as I can, which is funny because it's actually the longest shot. So hopefully I can actually keep it fairly succinct. I've gone way over my time. That's okay. We're all having fun, right? So this is a cool shot. I can, like, obviously it's difficult to not see that bit in Mission Impossible 3 when he's running on the bridge, because there's a lot of stuff from there. But generally it's fine. I think as with some of the things that we've said previously and some of the stuff that Chris said in his one, there's a few kind of acting choices and staging choices that could probably improve this. So first of all, sorry, I'm just like, it's quite it's quite interesting to choose the Mission Impossible 3 bridge bit as a like inspiration, because it already kind of looked a little bit weird in the film. Like it was one of those things that excuse me, let's just turn the sound out. It was already one of those things that looked a little bit odd on screen. Like a lot of people, I mean, I love this film in particular, but like, because that shot came up in the trailer, I think, before the film came out, and a lot of people were like, well, how the hell does this work? Because the explosion is happening kind of behind him and to his right, or to his left, sorry. And then, of course, I can't frame through this, but he's then getting flung. You know, he's getting flung this way. Oh, there's still got old drawings. He's getting flung this way, which is kind of weird. So it's, given that it's kind of a controversial shot in the first place, it's quite interesting to then take that and use that as inspiration. But I mean, it's still a cool scene, even if it feels a little bit weird. Like, it didn't bother me quite as much as it bothered some people, but yeah, that's just a slight aside. Yeah, exactly. The physics are kind of a bit crazy, so it's bold to then to take that as an inspiration and run with it. So with that in mind, the first thing is the camera does too much. So this bit is all fine. Like, it's kind of okay. Like, he's coming out of the car. We see that, you know, we've got a lot of space up here to show that he's concerned about, obviously, there being something above him. That's fine. That all reads. That is not always the yeah. It is not always true that the Hollywood guys know better than us. Like, this bit is all fine as far as staging goes. I think your camera does a little bit too much here. But here, like, woo, that camera motion, if I draw it from top down, like, basically like comes like this, and starts to like turn, and start like it. So it's kind of tracking back this way. Actually, it's not, is it? It's it's kind of tracking this sort of way, and then it starts to turn and track kind of this way, and then it starts facing this way again. Like it's too much, too much, too much, too much. And then obviously we've got the explosion, and then like your physics are make slightly more sense than Mission Impossible, but only slightly. So what I would consider doing is actually you can, and it will tie into another comment that I've got. You could actually, I would, as he's running here, I'd move this car, to be honest. I'd actually place the car where he runs. I'd put the car here. And actually, well, let me talk about the other comment I had. So it's a bit weird that he slows down. This will all eventually tie in. Once I finish rambling, this will all eventually tie in. Like, so he slows down a lot here, which makes no sense if he thinks he's in danger. Like, especially not when especially when the thing that he knows is coming from screen left. Like, you know, he's got the car to his left or screen right. It does not track with me that he would then slow down here at this point, and then speed up again. So if you want to have some like adjustment in pace, so that there are a few moments where he's kind of like he's running for cover, and then he's like he's slowing down, and then speeding up again when he sees that the missile is incoming. What I would consider doing is moving the car over to where he actually runs through. So, like, instead of running around the car here, actually just have him keep going this way. Put the car here where, put the car here where he's running now. And actually, if you want to have the slowdown, you could actually have him run along the other side of the car. So he's put himself. If the car was here, he's come jumping over here, and he's coming this way. And then if he's put himself in cover of the car here, so this is what a car looks like, guys. I've seen a car before. If the car's here. That's a beautiful car. I've never seen a better car. It's got an aerial, it's got some lights, Nina. If you want to have that pace change, have the camera just track straight, like all the way down shot, so that you're ending up. You could basically blend it from where it finishes here, like from coming over here. Like it could just track backwards, and so you don't have any of the curve. You just keep coming straight backwards, and then if you want to have the pace change, as he's jumped over, have him kind of slow down and kind of creep alongside the car. So like he's jumped over, he's now got the car to his right, and he can be kind of like sort of stealthing or like moving in cover behind the car. And then that also means that when the car then gets blown up, the physics make more sense, because he'll be getting thrown, like if you imagine he's transposed to where the car is, and he is where the car is where he is now. When that gets blown up, that'll make a lot more sense for the physics. Just as he breaks cover from the car gets blown up, and then he'll get thrown to one side. I think that might be one way to, and I mean, obviously that is a huge change, but again, it's kind of about the staging and acting choices. But I think that's one way to do it, because your physics are better than do make more sense than the Mission Impossible 3 shot, but I think you could, in combination with the slowdown here, where he kind of slows down, like that would be cool. So but I also just I like the idea that if the camera's just tracking in all the way, That he kind of like gets down and like uses that car for cover, and then as he gets to the end of the car, like he starts sprinting again, because he's like he can still move fairly quickly in cover, but you can you provide a little bit of contrast from the open ground running. So that was kind of my big overall thoughts about that shot. But we can take a little look at some of the finer details. So generally, like, stuff's all okay. As I say, I do like the fact that he actually does look up here and like checks his surroundings. That immediately tells the audience like he should probably have a he should have a blink here, because he's turning his eyes. That looks really sinister. He's turning his head quite dramatically, so he should blink through there. Um, um, Sorry, Gomez. I will answer your question, but I'm just gonna get this bit finished, and then we can talk about it. So stick around. Like generally, this stuff's all fine. I would say his run pose is a little bit not. This arm's okay. This arm's fine. This one feels a little bit. The path it takes is a little bit odd like that. So maybe it's okay. Like this, it just feels a little bit. It feels a little bit too much out. And I mean, you can break the elbow and have runs that do that, but no, it's okay. It's fine. That's minor. The bigger thing is there's no anticipation here for the jump. It doesn't, as the viewer, like obviously he sees it coming, which is good. Like, and he focuses on it. That's fine. That's good. But as a viewer, we don't know that it's coming, and it would be nice to get a little indication that that is happening. So I would say it will be tough because obviously the camera has to come up and over the car. I'd probably have him back a little bit further, like before the car even comes in shot. I'd have where he plants his foot, because he plants it down here somewhere, but I'd have him plant it a little bit further back and really like get that suggestion that um, he's going to be taking off. Like, so really drop the hips, like, because even here where you do have a bit of anticipation, like his hips do not drop nearly enough to get over how high he's jumping. Now, quite why he's jumping over the top of the car as opposed to the lower bit, I'm not entirely sure. We can talk about that as well. But I'd definitely try and sink his hips a lot more as he comes through here. Um, like and do it a little bit further back so that we can see it before this car starts to block our view of what's happening. It needs to happen it needs to happen a little bit earlier than it's happening right now. I would also maybe if you are going to change the camera and stuff that I talked about before, I'd probably consider shifting this car forward a bit so that his hand is actually like placed on on this bit of the car. And then that's a lot less work for his legs to do. Like, humans tend to try and be efficient. So if he's going to leap the car, have his hand plant on this corner, and then you don't have to work so hard to get your legs up here, because his legs can be, you know, he can be off here, and he can have his arm up here or whatever, and then he can shoot his legs this way. It's way less effort. Um, so you could just push this car forward and make it feel like it's crashed into the side of the bridge or something. Just it's a minor thing. It's not major. But like, yeah, because you're losing a lot of the anticipation and the like. I mean, this could be a really cool pose. I don't know. I can't tell. Um, I'm not sure. um, but it could be, but we will never know because it is hidden. I don't know whether the spline should go that way or that way because it's hidden by the car. So like that would pushing the car over a bit would actually help with that quite a lot. Yeah, so get bigger anticipation here. So really, like you need to like do take a look at some. I mean, obviously he's not long jumping, but look at some long jumpers or maybe some high jumpers and see how low they can get before they when they're about to take off and they know they're about to take off. Uh, you want to really go quite extreme. Um, Potentially, if I draw it from side view, like you want a lot of compression in that front leading leg, and the other leg coming through as part of the jump. It's basically like a down pose in it's a down pose in a run, but like you want to make sure that you push those hips basically as low, like because it's such a big jump as well. Like you want those legs, you want him to sink really really low. Like that is way too high. His hips should be like down here somewhere. But obviously that's part of the framing and stuff is a problem. But he needs to be really compressed because he needs so much energy to push and jump and get over the top. Um, I would I would keep maybe keep this arm clear of the silhouette again. It can still come round to here eventually, but you could probably go from here up to maybe even further. Like here, he could go more. Um, like the legs feel kind of weak. Which leg does he take off with? Yeah. So as he's because he's got so high to jump, it makes it much more difficult. But like basically, as he's pushing up with this leg, so he's pushing up with or he's jumping with his right knee leading. So then, as he's reaching the apex, you really need to push through and have this front leg much more. I mean, not at that angle, obviously, but you need to have that much more compressed. And possibly straighten this out because you want to feel like he's 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 punching essentially punching through with his right knee, and then as he gets to the apex, the legs need to swap over because it is essentially regardless of what's happening, like it's a jump. So you when you take off with one leg and you drive through, like um, it's a bit like a scissor kick, I guess. But yeah, because he is coming down on his left leg, so have that leg drive through a lot stronger. You can drag this back more. That leg is lagging behind, and then yeah, I wonder whether should that knee go that way. Don't know. I'm not sure if that knee should go that way, so don't necessarily take that as anything. This hand feels a bit weird as he lands. Kind of like gets into that position, then doesn't really do anything. Like it feels a bit odd. Also got a pop in the hands here. That should continue to delay, so that's fine. But that is already coming forward to too soon, which, if you delay it a little bit, means that you'll also not have to worry about this hand not having anything to do for a little bit here. Yeah, it kind of feels a bit weird. Now that I've seen it, I can't stop seeing that hand. So maybe as he comes over, like more drag on the arms, I think. Maybe not as much as that, but like basically hold that until basically just after he lands, like, and then you can start having it come through, and then you're saving yourself a bunch of frames here where the arm should just kind of, as he lands, it should, you know, the path comes around and it goes back into the running pose. But at the moment you're having to hold the arm here because it's got there too early. Yeah, we talked about the slowdown and stuff. He's running very, a lot of the, okay, it's not so bad here, but basically from about this point on, like, he runs with his hands very flat. Just keep an eye on that, like, all the way through here, his hands are very flat until he starts running again here, and then they start turning. They feel a bit, feels a bit like he's kind of, feels a bit like he's sort of paddling, and you don't want it to look like he's paddling, because he is not paddling. Like, there's some nice, like, there's a bit of nice motion in the chest and the shoulders as he's running through here. I mean, as we've already discussed, I don't necessarily think the kind of staging and acting choice here is appropriate for the action. So I mean, to be honest, if you wanted to, you could talk about the changes, or like look at doing the changes that I talked about in the action. But like, again, this run is okay. The explosion. The explosion is okay, but we can do more with these poses. Like if he's like, this feels a little bit weird. I wonder whether you have a little bit more rotation on the shoulders. Yeah, you wanna. Should really go because I've been doing this for like, how long have I been streaming now? Like over 2 hours. So it's a hell of a review. I've probably given you way too many notes. Yeah, I'd probably try and relax these shoulders a little bit more. Overall, I think it's kind of okay, but you want to, oh shit. Again, it's kind of trying to, god damn it, drawing at the bottom of the screen. You want to try and strengthen some of those poses. I feel like this arm comes up too soon. Like, these legs should be stronger. Because if you straighten these legs out, Okay, well that's good. If you strengthen these legs out, oh sorry, straighten these legs out, then you get more compression here when he gets hit, or when he hits the car, which will provide a bit more. If they catch up, so like if it's still kind of like quite straight here, not completely straight obviously, but if it's quite straight here, then you get that crumple here as the feet kind of follow through, then that's pretty good. Here I think again like he's got some curve here as he's impacted. I think as you follow through here, like that needs to be much straighter, or like, or maybe even, yeah, I mean you've got a bit here, but yeah, I think because basically as he comes in, obviously as he's impacting the car, he starts to curve, and you've got his legs coming up, and you know, and he's like this, and then next frame, let's do. Have we got onion skinning? There is onion skinning, isn't there? Oh, ghosting. Yeah, so you've got him impacting here, and then you want him to compress further, and obviously his legs start to come up, and he's still straight here, and then his body comes in, and his legs start to really compress, and it's still kind of straight, and then he's right crushed up tight, which is fine. I'm kind of only animating one leg here. But then as the energy kind of dissipates, it feels like he kind of needs to slump a little bit more. I'm just trying to think how one will accomplish that. So he needs to like kind of hit the wall, like have a beat of timing, and then starting from his legs and his hips, like it needs to drop down. You need to get maybe a little bit of stretch through the spine as like his body, like the bottom of his body starts to transition or translate downwards, and then and then his upper body kind of follow afterwards. I think that's okay though. Oh man, it's crazy when you do all that. But yeah, generally that stuff is kind of all okay. I think this pose is cool. I like this. Like this is good. This doesn't work for me. This, I mean, it's partly the model. Yeah, exactly, a bit of slinky, but like, because I feel like it's kind of, and it's partly the way the model is done, but there's a suggestion that you're trying to get the reverse C here, but the shape of his body and his chest kind of belies that a little bit. So I wondered if you need to maybe go over the top and actually have it, actually rotate his hips forward. It might not work. I'm just going to say that right now. But it could, yeah, let's delete that. Like it could go this way instead. I mean, obviously it's difficult to see with a moving camera, but you could actually like go kind of full on the other way and have him slump down forwards, because you are starting to get that here. Like that could be more extreme and more early, because here is like his hips start to come forward again, and you start going this way. But actually, like you could go from the C here and C here, and see here, and then start to, yeah, like start to bring it forwards, and then he starts to fall forwards, and fall forwards, and fall forwards, and fall forwards. When that's, and like, yeah, I guess you can have a little bit of change there maybe, but yeah. It's pretty minor, to be honest. The other weird thing about this shot is that he slumps to the ground and he's kind of knocked out, but his hand comes back here to catch himself, which is fine, but then it slips back this way, and that's too much effort. Like, he's a big-chested guy. Like, he actually has to lift his chest up for his hand to get round and flick back that way. Like, that does not make sense to me. Like, better that his hand comes here and then it slide forward, and so that he is now like this instead, and his hand is over here. I mean, that's a nice pose, but how he got there doesn't really make a lot of sense. And you know, if his hand is up here, he can then just pull back into this pose here. It's fine. And it's like, so it's a really minor change. Like, that get up's quite nice. I quite like that. And the look, that's good. Like, that's a really nice pose. That's good. That's strong. You can see where all of his stuff is. Like, you can see where all his body parts are, what's happening. He's got a nice like variation in a nice bit of variation in in the in the spine and shoulders, and the hips. Like, it's cool. That's a good pose. Um, yeah, I don't think I had any other notes. It was mostly just that kind of fairly big scene change, but I mean, it's not necessarily, again, like, as we've talked about in some of the other stuff. Like, these are big changes, and you know, ideally you want to kind of address those at the start before you do tons of work. But you know, so don't feel obliged to actually do those. But it's just, again, it's things to think about in the future when you're planning out new shots, and thinking about stuff like that. Okay. And did I have any thoughts about the helicopter? No, the helicopter feels a little bit light. It's a big helicopter. I'm not sure it's rotating around the right point. Helicopters should rotate around the rotors, I guess. I haven't really looked at any helicopter motion. But like, it kind of tips, it feels like it tips its nose a little bit fast. It's minor, it's minor. Yeah, like as it comes into hover, like, that bit's fine. Like, that feels good. As it comes in, it kind of goes like, whoosh, and like, you feel it kind of settling on the air. But then it tips its nose down again, and I don't think it should do that. Or if it does, it should do it way more subtle. Because when it's tipping as far forward as that, that's actually going to make it start going forward again, um, which like, it can't come to a stop here as it's tipping forward. Like, as it tips forward, it needs to start moving forward again. So you either, yeah, I think if you want it to stop, it should just level out a bit instead. But yeah, I think we'll call it there, because that has gone on for nearly 2.5 hours, which is way longer than I thought it was going to be. But I got tied up in looking at all various little bits and pieces. Um, so let's stop, shall we? Um, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean, but it it feels a little bit too much. Like you could be a lot more calm with that, and it would still feel like a settle. Um, but yeah, I think yes, we will stop there. Um, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, like there's some great stuff on here. Like a few things need bigger changes than others, but like there's nothing that stands out as being particularly like egregious. Like it's mostly just some and it does reflect a lot of the stuff that Chris said in his like spending more time in the planning stage and thinking about what you want to achieve and how you're going to achieve it before you start working and looking at the cameras um, um, and trying to think about what's going to work best before you get there. Um, Two quick questions. So right now I'm working on frantic enter and exit cover animations. Do you have any other suggestions on shots I could add to the reel? Also, how close do you think I am to landing a junior entry level role at a game studio? Thanks. Um, I think I think you've like there's plenty of junior level stuff in here. Um, yeah, I mean some of it needs tightening up, but I think there are definitely bits that are stronger than others, and so there are things that you know that you need to work on. But um, no, I'd say there's plenty of junior level stuff here. Um, like some I mean some of the stuff in here is great, like like really nice. Like you just need to push some of those poses and plan out what you're gonna do better. I mean, this, you know, even though I had a lot of things to critique in this shot, like it still works. Like it's still functional. I can see what you know what she's doing and what she's trying to achieve. So no, I don't think I don't I think there's definitely junior level stuff here for sure. Uh, yeah, like I mean, this is a long sequence of animation. Like there's a lot of stuff going on here. Um, Yeah, and also like you, as I say, you've demonstrated working with mocap, um, and and you've demonstrated that you can start playing around with engines and putting stuff in engine, which is good. So I mean, yeah, like it's as for other shots, um, as for other shots. Not specifically. I mean, there's no specific thing that anybody ever really, or certainly I don't look for specifics when people send in reels. There's no real animation where I'm just like, okay, well, if they don't have this thing, then there's no way I can tell whether they're any good or not. Um, I mean, run cycles and stuff are good, but like you've got a lot of, you know, you've got a lot of movement cycles and stuff in here. For game specific, I mean, I guess you could have, you know, you can try doing some more like run and walk cycles, but I mean, I can't. I mean, I've been working on a game that involves mocap a lot, um, so like until the Riot Creative Contest, I mean, I can't remember the last time I animated a walk cycle, especially not for a game that was actually coming out. Um, you know, a lot of the time it's kind of working with mocap, so it's just understanding, it's understanding principles, animation principles, and kind of knowing what to do and what to look for. Um, so no, I mean, I wouldn't feel like, as I say, you've got a lot of like run stuff. Obviously, this is quite a cinematic shot, so it's not as applicable to games, I guess. But it depends if you want to do cinematics animation um, or in game, which is obviously more about making loops and little bits of animation. Um, so no, I don't think there's anything. I never look for anything specific. I take each showreel that I see as it comes, and try to assess. And I mean, to be honest, it's quite common that if somebody sees your reel and sees there's some potential in there, like um, if they're not sure, they'll get you to do a test, and it'll often be a walk cycle or particular emotion in a walk cycle, or picking up an object, or stuff like that. So I guess, yeah, some more. I mean, you've got some prop work stuff here, but obviously it's quite a light prop. So I mean, you could maybe do some studies of working with weight. Um, but no, generally everything's good. I'd say a lot of the stuff that you are looking at is like happens on a flat plane. So like obviously you've got run cycles, and he does a jump and stuff, but like I don't know that it's absolutely crucial, but something that involves some kind of like significant vertical change, that like climbing up something or stepping up, or stepping over a box or something might be cool. But I mean, don't feel like you have to. Like, there's plenty of good stuff here, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Um, as for actually landing the job, well, I mean that's more difficult, because that kind of is dependent on what roles people have available, what projects are available, where you live, where you can move to. Like, timing is everything, but there's certainly no harm in getting stuff out there, um, and trying to get it in front of people, and doing it often, and keep asking, and keep pushing. Um, yeah, for sure. Like, if when you get updates, like every time you have a significant update to reels and stuff, send it out again if you haven't heard from anybody in a little while. Um, and obviously making contacts is always good as well. But yeah, unless you had any other questions, I think I will stop there. I do actually have to go back and look at a couple of questions that Gomez asked. Um, what was that? What about industry questions? Working in the studio environment, showing work deadlines. Well, I definitely won't be able to show any work from work. That is bad. I will get fired. I definitely cannot talk about upcoming deadlines. Not that I have any. I've said too much. And I mean, you can ask questions about working in the studio environment, but I will have to be careful about how I answer those. Um, and how often do I show work to know if it's working to peers or superiors? Um, like, I should do it more. I think everybody should do it more, probably. People often, once they get in, tend to. I find in a lot of places I've worked, tend to just kind of get on with the thing that they're doing, and kind of forget. But normally, I guess at least weekly, people look at stuff. But I need to personally get better at going up to people and saying, "Hey, I'm working on this thing. What do you think?" Um, um, as I say, a lot of stuff we also do is mocap, so kind of typically it's already working to some extent. and it just becomes about polishing it up and making it, you know, loop or do whatever it needs to do. But yeah, pretty regularly. But I should do more. I should ask for more feedback. So it's good that people here are asking for feedback because that's nice. Even if it comes in huge 2.5 hour marathon sessions, which is uncommon because nobody really typically has time to do that. So yes, but if you unless you've got any last minute things, I will stop there so that I can get out of here and stop waffling on because I'm very good at doing that. Really like that. Right, we'll do. That's the in-laws. I definitely have to go. Okay. Hit me up if you need anything else. Just thanks, man. I felt like I went way over time budget, but yes, that's them. Thank you. I hope that was helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, just give me a shout. Oh no, don't worry about it. Like that will continue forever, and also you know plenty. Like honestly, I went into supreme amounts of detail there, which was uh, like possibly slightly unnecessary. But honestly, there's loads of good stuff here. So do not be afraid. Just main critiques were plan a lot in advance and think about your acting choices and what that's going to mean for what you're doing. Really concentrate on pushing those poses and silhouettes. Like this first piece is great for that. And yeah, that's mostly it. Like better planning will mean that you don't get those situations where you kind of just like winging it. And yeah, just like you've got all the fundamentals down. Like you just need to really push some of those poses. Like this whole section could be absolutely like fluid and fantastic. Like it's already good, but just a little bit more, and you just will get so much more out of it. Yeah, right. I must go. That's twice my doorbell has gone. So thanks very much. Hit me up on Twitter if you want any other things, or send me a message, or uh, just send me reels if you want me to look at other stuff. I will try and not spend 2.5 hours next time doing it. Uh, Thanks again. Thanks for watching.